just love your music, Mr. Henderson.
Me too.
Uh-huh.
I'm a number one fan.
I'm your number one fan.
We just got to flip a coin for it.
Okay. All right, so everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Holistic Cannabis Show, where I am your hostess, Dr. Yolanda Henderson, aka the Hat Lady, aka Cannabis Doc, aka whatever. And I'm always joined by my wonderful co-host.
I like this shirt.
Yeah.
Y'all see the shirt? It's my Cinco de Mayo shirt. Yeah, y'all like that. Look at the sleeves. Look at the sleeves.
His Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my Cinco de Mayo shirt. Look right there. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa? Amigos.
It's so funny. All right, so you all know, of course, Mr. Hen said it is Cinco de Mayo, of course. And we are celebrating for Cinco de Mayo with our fellow Mexicanos and Mexicanos. So if you all know, I'm from Texas, so I mix and mingle with all the races, especially the Hispanics and Mexicanos. And we're going to celebrate them today.
Whatever, we just looking for a reason to celebrate shit. It come up on a joint, say, man, St. Patrick's Day, guess what? We was out there celebrating that too. You know what I'm saying? Cinco de Mayo, guess what? We celebrating that too. My thing is, when it's Black History Month, do y'all celebrate that with us?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, y'all better make sure now, because I'm checking the list in 25. I'm checking the list. Check this out. You know what I'm saying? When it's St. Patrick's Day, and we celebrate them, do they celebrate us on Martin Luther King's birthday? They celebrate Martin Luther King with us?
Whoa. I
So
can't speak on it. I don't know. I'm sure they do.
But anyway, barbecue and beer, just give me a reason. It's Friday. I'm on it.
That's
Right?
it.
Sunday. Just because it's Sunday. Just because the sun out. Just because it's payday. We'll find reasons to celebrate. Just because we moving. Shit. Just because I'm alive.
Yeah.
We'll find any reason to celebrate. But what I would encourage people to do is go find out what these holidays mean to the ethnicities that's supporting those holidays.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Go find you a Hispanic person and ask them what Cinco de Mayo means to them.
That's right.
I know what it means.
That's a good question.
You guys Google. Google will tell you what it
Google
means.
will tell you everything, right?
Yeah.
All right, so in this episode, we're talking about the legalization, aka the descheduling of cannabis. All right, so I know you all been waiting to hear what does Dr. Henderson and Hen have to say about the legalization, and we have a lot to say. So we're gonna say something, but we want to first see what Georgia is saying about that rescheduling of medical cannabis through the DEA, and how it's going to affect those people, those of us who live in Georgia and around the world, because this is global, y'all. This is federal. This is around all 50 states. So we're going to be right back to discuss more.
Reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. It would be a historic shift in drug policy, sure to have ripple effects across the nation.
Yeah, it'll be the DEA's biggest policy change in more than 50 years, in fact. Fox 5's Christopher King is live in Midtown tonight to tell us what it means for Georgia. Christopher?
Well, Russ, Courtney, it could mean lower penalties for marijuana at the federal level, but here in Georgia, it may not mean much.
It's a big deal.
The U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency is expected to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous substance. Right now, the DEA considers marijuana as a Schedule I drug in the same category as heroin or LSD,
which expose people charged in federal court to really high sentences.
The DEA would reclassify marijuana as a Schedule III drug, like some anabolic steroids or ketamine.
You're going to see a lot less federal marijuana prosecutions.
Tom Church is a trial attorney. He says the reclassification does not legalize recreational marijuana. It would just mean potentially lighter punishment for marijuana offenses at the federal level.
The penalties for marijuana federal offenses now are going to be much lower.
So it is historic.
The proposed shift would bring the agency's biggest policy change in more than 50 years. Sharon Rayford is the founding director of Peachtree NORML, which advocates to reform marijuana laws.
And hopefully it will be one of the, one step towards more sane laws, but it's not going to do anything for the state of Georgia.
States often follow federal policy, but right now, Georgia considers marijuana a dangerous drug.
Here in Georgia, marijuana is still going to be a Schedule I substance.
State legislators would have to change drug laws for the policy to have any effect here in Georgia.
The classification will not keep people from getting arrested, nor will it expunge or do any of that type of work around cannabis for the people that have already been arrested in the past.
Now, the DEA will hear public comment on the proposal. A judge will review it, and the agency will eventually get around to publishing a final rule.
All right. So, in the state of Georgia, what is the absolute difference from what it was? It was a Schedule 3, or it is a Schedule 3 considered in the state of Georgia always. They think it's the most dangerous drug ever. They don't see any medical benefits.
Of course they do.
They don't think that it is going to help people. They don't think of it as a supplement. And so we'll have a problem in Georgia with medical cannabis for now, okay? So since they have their own state scheduling system, that is going to make sure that you're still going to get penalized, you're still going to go to jail, you're still going to have oversight, you're still going to have a medical cannabis card. So if you all are in need of a medical cannabis card and you hear my voice, you can get a medical cannabis card. There are so many people who are popping up next to the dispensaries who are selling the opportunity to get a medical cannabis card. I have my card in several states. So nevertheless, it's still not a deal to cannabis participate, okay? So you're just going to either keep doing it the same way you've been doing it, going to another state, or you're going to get your medical cannabis card here in the state of Georgia, and you're going to be able to indulge at their dispensaries or be able to consume or have it shipped to you as, any other type of way that you can get your cannabis legal with your card. So I would always tell people, in order to talk to me, have your card, because having a card that just bypasses all of the rigmarole, all of the penalties that could come with being a Class 3, because there are still state laws for having a Class 3 or Schedule 3 in the state of Georgia. And we have some of that information. So it is... What do you think? Right. So this is what Mr. Biden is saying, and we all think it's a political move, and it's not fair if it is a political move, because guess what? You know how many people could have benefited from this, and it took an election to make this move. So a lot of people are on the fence about him running and him actually making that claim that he is actually rescheduling so that he can get votes. What do you think, Mr. Henderson?
It's still lame.
It's lame. Yeah.
It's still lame.
Yeah.
Only thing that they did was basically admitted that there's this weed ain't as bad as what we thought. We should pass the law. We should pass some type of super hyped up opinion editorial.
Yeah.
Is what it add up to. Does it reduce sentencing in jail? No. Does it mean that Georgia State Police won't bother me if my car smells like chronic? No. Did it decriminalize it to where, okay, well, look, you know what I'm saying, you give me nothing at all, not a ticket, not a come back to court? Did it do that for me? Nah. Did it make it easier to access cannabis for people who need to access cannabis? Mm-hmm. Nah. So what the hell did they tell us this information for? Other than to say something that we already share with y'all every week.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the DEA has really recommended it that it comes from the Schedule 1, which said that there was no medical benefits to it now having medical benefits, now making us feel like shit because we were the ones who were saying all along
that it got medical benefits. We already knew that.
Benefits. So we already know. So in the state of Georgia, the Schedule 3, I just pulled it up, a conviction for possessing a Schedule 3 drug in Georgia will be treated as a felony conviction. All right, so
did it help you?
It will be a prison term between 1 to 3 years. However, upon a third or subsequent conviction, the prison term will be elevated to between 1 to 5 years. So even though it's not 15 to 20 years, we are appreciative of that. There's people who are serving from cannabis misdemeanors or cannabis felonies that were, you know, up to 30 years in prison.
If you catch me with weed on a Monday, I make bail. You catch me with weed on Wednesday, I make bail. You catch me with weed on Friday, I make bail. That's 3 times. That's 3 offenses.
3 strikes.
Guess what? 3 strikes in less than a week, you're out of there.
So what does this really mean again for banking industry? And Mr. Henderson is going to elaborate on that just a little bit.
Now, because it's been reclassified the way that it is, that opens up more door for conversation when it comes to as far as the business side, right? The tax implications and all of that, right? Okay, it'll do that. One portion of the bill would give pretty much the authority with cannabis to go to a doctor. So now you go to a doctor, possibly. Doctor writes you a prescription for it, possibly. Then you'll be able to file it on your insurance through your employer, possibly, which means that getting a drug test becomes irrelevant.
Right. And that's
possibly.
A good thing.
And so the downside to that is it always bothers the small farmers. It's never meant to advance the people. The people who need it the most is the people that suffer the most.
Wow.
It's not going to benefit you to have the federal government giving you cannabis, okay? It'll never benefit you or be in your best interest to allow the government to take care of you. You say, oh yeah, well hey man, yeah, that's good that at least I won't be penalized for it. Can't you grow it at home? Can you plant it in your backyard? Again, how does that help you? You're going to have plenty of companies that's going to advertise, oh yeah, we got certificate of analysis, blah, 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 but it's only as good as the person who printed it. The government gave you the Tuskegee experiment in your face. They blew up the Twin Towers in your face. They went to war in your face. They played with you all the way around. They told you to go get this shot in your arm because you was going to die without it. They told you all of this bullshit. And now they telling you, oh yeah, well, we still not going to give you cannabis. Who is the only political party to benefit from them even having this conversation that they having on cannabis? The Democrats? The Democrats, they need all the help they can get. So guess what they're going to do? Talk about cannabis from the standpoint of we're helping you. But in actuality, have the Democrats ever did anything to help you? You can think about that shit for yourself. You don't need me to tell you. I'm just supposed to put it on your mind.
Right. All right, so we have a video. We have a video on the cannabis here in Georgia and all over the world and how it's going to affect us by none other than the Roland Martin Show. Okay, so after this, we'll talk about it more.
As a Schedule I drug, defined as a drug with no accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. Well, that is now changed, and the DEA is expected to reclassify marijuana from the most strict Schedule I to the less stringent Schedule III. This is the first time the U.S. government is acknowledging its potential medical benefits. Dr. Shonda Macy is the founder of the National Holistic Healing Center, joins us from Washington, D.C. Shonda, glad to have you here. So, explain to people why this is a huge decision.
for our community. The first thing, the impact that it has is that it opens up the access for patients. Patients feel more comfortable using cannabis as medicine because now the government is saying it's actually medicinal benefits in using it. So we're so excited that the government is just finally accepting and sharing the news that we've known for decades, and that we've been fighting for our rights for legalization to just be able to have access to healthcare. So that's the underlying issue that we're dealing with today, but there's also implications on what it looks like for small business owners that are of brown and black communities, social equity, and what it looks like for us in the taxation realm. So for every dollar that we generate in cannabis, 70 cents of that goes to the federal government on taxes. So now with the rescheduling of cannabis, this actually allows us to normalize our taxation and get taxed like every other business in the United States. So we can actually now start to generate a profit.
But again, well, they're focusing on the health benefits. And so what we have seen is a lot of focus on this over the last several years. We have seen the NFL, the NBA also change their position when it comes to the health benefits as well. And so, you know, this is a dramatic move by the DEA, and one that people have been demanding for a very long time.
Definitely. And not only that, Roland, what's interesting about this rescheduling is that it opens up for more access to research. So now you'll start to see more pharmaceutical companies come in, do more research, but it also allows pharmaceutical companies to come in, cultivate, manufacture, sell, and distribute cannabis along with us small businesses. So this is kind of like a tricky place, but for us, in terms of our community, what is so powerful about rescheduling is that Black and brown communities that were targeted, that have been incarcerated for cannabis, we'll see less and less of those incarcerations. And so we have a long way to go, but we'll take our victory today because we know that incremental change is really going to help us on the long run. But we just have to get situated, and making this progress today will definitely impact our community in the future.
I want to bring in my panel right now, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice with the EPA, Joseph out of D.C., Randy Bryant, DEI disruptor, also out of D.C., Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney out of L.A. Glad to have all three of you here. Joe, I'll start with you. Your question for Doc regarding this decision.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm glad to hear this news. This is good news. So I wonder, thinking about this, you've been on this crusade for quite some time. When I say that, I mean that there's been a lot of work and effort, blood, sweat, and tears toward getting the government to move along to where we actually are, the state of marijuana, the medicinal values, et cetera. What would you say, having accomplished this, would be your next frontier? What are some other barriers related to this issue that you would like to see come down?
Well, we know that the cannabis laws have been intertwined in systemic racism since the inception. And in 1971, as Roland pointed out, is that with the Substance Control Act, it classified it as heroin. So what we need to do is systematically unwind all of the racial barriers that we've seen that have been implemented through policy, through laws, and then really find a good way for our community to be able to expunge their previous convictions and institute more voting rights. And I think like that is the most fundamental thing we can do for our community, because we know that if we have the right to vote, we can say who's in power.
Thank you.
Mustafa.
Yeah, well, thank you for being with us. You know, we know that, as mentioned earlier, there are a number of different health benefits. So benefits from cancer, lowering blood pressure, anxiety, a number of different things that are associated with cannabis. Do you feel that this will also open the door, because you mentioned earlier about research, and often people are a bit hesitant when there's a controlled substance that's a part of their research. So I'm wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, when I was a couple of decades ago, when I was a student at Howard University studying prostate cancer in men, you know, one of the major barriers I had was the simple fact that I couldn't study it. And so for me, especially with cancers like prostate that disproportionately impacts our community, it's important for me to find a way that men, Black men, can have a sustainable life and be able to have access to true health care. So now we can do this with the rescheduling. Literally, this rescheduling puts cannabis in the same category as Tylenol. And so with that, we can actually start to look at those fundamental healthcare issues that can start to change lives. And when I say change lives, but throughout all diseases, all disease states, we can really start to introspect on what impacts that cannabis can have on sustaining the human life.
Randy.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that this happened. I know it was a long time coming, and I'm certainly very happy that they are going to change the scheduling, but I can't help but to just wonder about equity. You know, many of our brothers and sisters have been locked up and remain locked up because of just having small amounts of marijuana. And I also worry about, you know, the wealth gap they talk about all the time. How, you know, the federal government, of course, is going to make quite a bit of money, which is why I believe there's been a big push to make it, you know, to change the laws. But how will we ensure that we, Black people, will have an opportunity to also benefit from this new change?
Well, I'm going to touch on your last point first, which is that throughout the nation is the simple fact that social equity licenses have been issued and allowable for people of color. And that will give us the access to be able to participate in this billion-dollar industry. But I want to also erase the misconception of the billion-dollar industry. Like I said before, where we are today, every dollar that we generate in the cannabis industry, 70 cents actually goes to taxation. So we're not really making money. And if you look at what that looks like in terms of cannabis businesses today, we owe the federal government over $3 billion collectively. And so now, with the rescheduling, is only the beginning of ability to generate profit. So those social equity licenses that have been issued now can go to those that were disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. Let me give you a great case in point. Washington, D.C. have encouraged legacy, what we call legacy or illicit market, to come up into the light, to participate in a regulated market so that they can have access to freely participate in an industry that will generate wealth that they created. And so with that, we see New York, we see all the different states coming on with this equity path. Now, is it just that easy? No. There's a lot of regulatory hurdles. There's a lot of issues surrounding social equity and funding for people who want to actually start their business. But there is the first step, which is that we're getting a license. And then from there, we have to work on the incremental change. And that incremental change, just being able to have the potential to generate some type of generational wealth, is just the beginning of trying to restore the justice that has been done on our community. So no, is it where we want to be today? Is it headed in the right direction? Yes, it is. And now the flip-flop on what you said previously, let's talk about the state of expungement right now. I remember when I went to the White House 2 years ago, and we spoke to the special advisor to the president and talked about how pardons should be issued. And less than 6 months later, the pardons were issued for simple marijuana possession. That was such a huge victory for us. But also the message was to tell all the governors to issue pardons in all the states to those that actually had marijuana possession charges. That didn't happen because a lot of governors didn't have the power to institute such change. But we see right now in Congress, there's legislation like the HOPE Act that says that expungement for low-level possessions of medical cannabis or cannabis, period, should be expunged automatically. That expungement will start to right the wrongs on our community and give us an opportunity not only to start out again, but have access to an industry that can generate generational wealth.
Thank you for that.
All right, then. Dr. Shonda, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. And we'll see what's next. Thanks a lot.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media.
You all heard it from Roland Martin, from Dr. Chandra. We know her, love her. Hey, how you doing? And hope to see and hear from you soon. I have a special guest on before I go into more details. My son, Jalen, who is a graduate. All right, so he is going to be graduating in a couple of days. We're going to be hearing from him talk about what it's like and what it's been like to be a senior and his intake on what's going on with the rescheduling of cannabis, because he's seen us firsthand working in this industry, and he's always been the one who says, Mom, that's illegal, you know, we don't do that, and he's never, you know, indulged. So I'm so proud of him. But I want to hear now from the students aspect of hearing now that this is actually declassified. This is actually a Schedule 3 at this point, or making it once it's signed and everything. But how does that make you feel, knowing that there were people who could have utilized this as medicine way before now, and it's a political thing? So if you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody what your name is, that'd be great.
Hello, my name is Jalen.
Jalen. All right, Jalen. And what grade are you? I just said that, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a senior, about to graduate May 16th. You know, it's finally that day.
That's right.
Come a long way. Come a long way.
You come a long way. That's it. Are you crying? You kind of seem kind of mellow about that. Like,
I'm telling you, day after day, I know it's a grind that's like not really going to stop, although, you know, it's finally happening for me. But this is like a moment. It's like a checkpoint in your life. Well, it could be actually the starting line. Because, you know, after this, you know, this is really gets into the game.
That's it.
You know, I'm finally ready to take it on. You know, I'm not going to hide from life. I'm just going to face it like it is. And, you know, that does spin onto the topic of, you know, what my parents do. Like, honestly, I do recognize the stuff that they do. I see the people that benefit from it. Heck, I'm in school, and I see kids all around that's just going all that, doing way too much for no reason. Until they'll go and do something over here, they'll come back calm. I know a few stoneheads that's just like always calm, but I know they at the top of the class. I'm like, wow, hey, how'd you get a 100 on that test high? Like, wow.
But I smoked while I studied.
You know,
it's a study high, test high.
Because it actually has
grades.
benefits. Okay, so I want to just, I want to reiterate how important all of these research has been. So just because the United States of America just declassified it and were able to study it, that does not mean that this was the only state to study cannabis. Okay, so that's where we came from. We got our information from Israel, from Mexico, from Argentina, from other places who did not have these harsh study habits, okay, and who were actually able to give us the business, and who is able to at least tell us about all of the many benefits. And we brought this to America, and we not saying that it's us, but I'm saying that this should have been in the making a long time ago. They knew, like she said, prostate cancer, you can shrink and help the apoptosis of cancer cells. They knew about suppositories. They knew about IV. They knew about all of this stuff, and they were utilizing this and stuff in certain aspects and certain people. And not everyone. They knew that the young adults would benefit from ADHD and from all of these other health ailments that cannabis helped with. Okay, so anxiety. Okay, test taking anxiety. You know how many students missed out on grades because they had test taking anxiety? They did great all throughout the year. They could write papers, they could do everything that they wanted to do, but test taking anxiety is a form of anxiety. And guess what cannabis was? An anti-anxiolytic. It helped with anxiety. And I taught this. I taught the apoptosis that was is considered self-death. Apoptosis, look it up. A lot of this stuff is on Google, people. Like, I'm just happy. I'm happy now that this has come to a head, but I'm not happy. I'm not certain that I'm happy, because we also talked about something very important. We also talked about synthetics, and we also talked about how they grow and cultivate cannabis, and how that Roundup and different things that they put in our foods. And while we used to talk about organics versus inorganics and farmers versus non-organic farmers, it's because this is the same way you grow your cannabis, people. And if your cannabis is not considered organic and it is taken over by the federal government, you are going to get inorganic synthetic cannabis. And I didn't bring any photos, but there's a difference between synthetic and man-made and how it binds to the receptors. And if anybody want to do some research on this, Dr. Shonda, everybody, Dr. Rose, y'all contact me, because I got a lot to say. They might try to kill me about this kind of stuff, but I know what I'm talking about. So if you're talking about descheduling, you're giving this to the federal government to oversee, because now you're under a 3 through 5 classification. You all go look at what the federal law says about 3 through 5 schedule of classification, and it makes it to where you have to have a prescription. That means that cannabis is not only going to be a recommendation, but it now is going to be a pharmaceutical thing. It's got to go through a pharmacist, and they're not talking about that, okay? So we are celebrating prematurely to a certain degree, Miss Dr. Chandra, Dr. everybody else who was on that last video, because this is a Schedule 3, does not make it a legalization. It is not legal everywhere, okay? You're still under a schedule. Now, if they were going to legalize it, they would have took it from a schedule.
Off the schedule.
Off the schedule. Altogether, we know that it's a health benefit. We know that we have an endocannabinoid
orange juice
system.
ain't on no schedule.
We know orange juice, vitamin C is not on a schedule, okay? It is a supplement. Our bodies are deficient in what's called the endocannabinoid system. And what they still have not said was that Dr. Raphael McCullum, who studied this endocannabinoid system and who were approved the endocannabinoid system in Israel, okay, the country that's at war right now, all of these information and all this classification and all of this descheduling is really not going to benefit us to a degree unless they go ahead and total legalize it. So don't get your votes up, because this is a tactic that is going to help you or tell you to vote for Biden because he just legalized cannabis, when that is not the case. You just gave it over to the pharmaceutical company, and guess what happens with pharmaceuticals? They buy every little mom and pop. Now you're not able to possess it because that takes in Trump's state law. And if they decide that they wanted to go to court, the pharmaceutical companies, and said, hey, this is not constitutional, we're supposed to be the ones who are doing this because this is a Schedule 3, they are going to have to do some amendments. And until those amendments are done, we do not have legal cannabis.
Everybody break out your pots. Plant your seeds right now.
And that's illegal, so don't do that. We didn't tell you to do that. You do that at your own risk. All right, so happy birthday to the beloved Gigi, the daughter of Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace. Happy heavenly birthday. She celebrated a birthday this past week. Study that osteoarthritis patients report sustained benefits from cannabis. Treatment was associated with reductions in pain-specific patient reported outcome measures at all time points in patients with osteoarthritis. So if you all don't know, though, osteo is like a bone and arthritis is your tendons and all that pain, arthritis, okay? So randomized clinical trial, CBD effectively treats acute dental pain. Patients who consume CBD on average experience a greater than 50% reduction in their pain. And in the latest news, federal marijuana rescheduling announced. Yay! Everybody is happy about that, right? DEA accepts health and agencies' recommendation to reclassify cannabis. Yay! Study, frequent cannabis use not linked to motivational loss. No! JAMA Psychiatry. No evidence that marijuana legalization laws encourage youth use. Yay! They need it. All right, so those were some of the news. But then we have an analysis that fewer young adults are driving impaired following marijuana legalization. Following legalization, fewer young people engaged in DUI alcohol. Great, because cannabis does not make you want alcohol. So, hey, it is working. It is actually used and have been utilized in detox clinics. Cannabis is actually not a gateway drug. It is an exit drug from different things like alcohol, like cocaine. But don't nobody talk about that. We will keep on waiting on them to catch up with resources and references to this as they want to conduct more studies. And of course, study is going to be conducted at where? If there are colleges that are going to have all the money and going to get all the grants to do all the research, where are they going to have it?
School.
At the university levels. And what do the universities use?
Right now, they fighting against each other right now.
They use synthetic.
Oh,
they use
synthetics.
clones.
Yeah, clones. Mm-hmm.
They do not utilize the heirloom seeds or the mother seeds that keep the cannabis. Thank you.
Y'all gonna be having some plastic stuff that is like a little bit of the.
I'm scared.
Like they gonna get some oil from it.
I'm scared of
it. You got kids that go to a regular college campus. You probably need to call and check on them because right now the Jewish students and the Palestinian students and pro-Palestinians, they're fighting.
They're fighting
on the campus. You should get them checked on. So call your peoples.
What you think about that?
I think they got a reason to be fighting.
Well,
me personally, I do think fighting isn't always the right answer.
There you go.
Fighting ain't always the right answer. Hey man, I tell you what, if somebody was exterminating my parents, my grandparents,
y'all better do
my cousins, my sisters, my brothers, and then saying they're all Hamas on top of that, oh, bro, that's just like saying they're all black people. Just substitute a different nationality right there. Soon it'll be happening to you.
There you go. All right.
Ask the Jews how the Nazis handle that.
All right, so y'all heard it. We do usually do a strain. I
got a strain.
What's your strain?
I got a strain. Canaglobe is a strain.
There you go. So now, which is so awesome that we have Canaglobe as a we consult and do business with. There are a major industry that is helping us to make money and earn in the cannabis industry before they write it out and say that that's illegal or that they're descheduling hemp when they've already, according to the 2018 Hemp Farm Bill, legalized hemp under 0.03% THC content by dry weight. So we have Cannaglobe, who's going to be our distributor. And if you're interested in becoming a Cannaglobian or distributing and having your own virtual dispensary, you can give us a call, 1-888-959-2093. And then we have Mr. Henderson, who has a wonderful opportunity that is just launched for Sony Orchard Group, and that is in the music industry. We have that flyer, and we're going to bring that up, and then he's going to talk about that. All right.
Okay, don't worry.
All right. So we couldn't get that one pulled up. That's fine.
That's all right. We'll keep going.
All right. So anything else in the industry that you have going on?
Nothing else.
All right. So safe banking. We didn't talk about how that's going to affect.
It ain't moving right now.
With safe banking, we know that Schedule 280E has been eliminated because now it's no longer federally illegal, and I believe they talked about that on the video. That now
they did. They talked about it on the clip a little bit. They said it'll generate wealth, but then if you go back and do a survey of all the minorities or the silent majorities that they talking about that this cannabis stuff is supposed to help, ask them how many people is involved in cannabis in there, and you're still gonna find a relatively small numbers, right? You still got people that want to be doctors, people that still want to be lawyers, people that still want to be train conductors, people that still want to be OnlyFans persons, people, you know what I'm saying? You still have a wide variety in that silent minority of people that don't want to get into the cannabis space.
That's true.
Right? It ain't for everybody.
That's true.
Right? No more than music is for everybody.
That's true.
No more than football is for everybody. No more than basketball is for everybody. So I think when they talk about it from that standpoint, they're still speaking of relatively small numbers. But
there you go.
yeah, you'll be able to get you some tax deductions off of it, later on down the line or whatever. But, less later on down the line.
There you go. All right, so Jalen, one question for you that inquiring minds want to know. What do you want to do after you graduate? What is your profession going to be? What are we going to see? Because we had so many. We had chef, we had a football player, we had a whole bunch of stuff that, we was counting on you to do. But you know what? You know what's going to be best for you. What do you think you want to do?
Jalen wants to be a pimp.
He don't want to be no pimp.
He want to move to Texas and get a stable.
Okay, go ahead and let Jalen talk about it. Come on, Jalen. Tell us what you want to do.
Me personally, it's still kind of just out there.
Okay.
It's almost like, you're at the end of your game and your favorite player just shot the ball for a 3 to get them 100 points over or something. Or barely make the game. It's a close game, and they try to make that shot, but then you just see it going in slow motion through the air. It's just, first of all, it hasn't even sunk in yet. That a few more days, I'm out. I'm graduating.
Gone.
I mean, I spent over 12 years of my life in that system. And honestly, what I do got to say is I'm just undecided yet. I don't know if what I have in goal is going to be made.
Okay.
Because there's always a chance, that ball is going to hit the rim and bounce off.
Yeah.
And then you left for dumb. Like, we lost the game. That's everything almost to you. Your life is important, and that's what I'm going through as of right now. I could try something, and I know I have room to fail because I'm young, but I could try something and something I've always wanted to do, and I just don't make it.
Okay. Well, what did you always want to do?
Well,
because we were looking at TCU for the culinary program.
Yeah, I mean, I do love cooking. I do find joy in learning how to make certain things that other people might not be able to do.
Like what?
For instance, right?
Like what? What do you like to cook?
Oh, well, what I like to cook, it's mostly pasta dishes that are from America. Well, although we don't have any dishes that's from here originally. I mean dishes from around the world, different countries, different types of flavors. Those are the things that really intrigue people because a lot of the times they're not making it out of the country. Right. They don't feel like going out of the country. But I do like culinary for that reason. I do like mechanical engineering because, learning how to build things is just something else.
Yeah.
There's Harvard classes of coding on YouTube, the full course, and you could just learn how to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, among other things, you know.
All right.
It's just an experience. It's just something I have to like look out for.
All right, especially when your parents are like big business time people, and you can always inherit businesses or come work for us. So, who has that kind of,
You know, sometimes it's not about inheriting it, because sometimes you just want to work hard for it yourself.
There you go. That's a good answer. Thank you for that. See, I did great. I think I did well with him. We did well with him. All right. So thank you again, honey, for all of your assistance over the years with him. And you know, we did this thing. So 3 down, 5 to go, and yeah. All right. So any last words, anyone? All right. Well, Big Shot Entertainment is already in the full effect. Go to Big Shot Entertainment on Instagram or on Facebook and find out more about what's going on with that. We could not pull up the flyer, but it is out there for everyone to see. And we're going to be out. And if you have questions, you know how to reach us at the Holistic Cannabis Show on Instagram. And until next week, same time, well, a little earlier. And see you later. Sayonara. Peace.